K-1 Max, the pinnacle of 70kg stand-up fighting. 60,000 fans packed into the Tokyo Dome, cheering as legends clashed under the bright lights. Epic ring walks, flawless TV production, life-changing prize money in a sport where most fought for passion, not pay. The rule set demanded action, and the K-1 tournament format created drama. 8 men, 1 night, 1 winner. Bukow, Sauer, Kraus, Zambidis, Koshenko. K-1 created superstars, and none were bigger in Japan than Masato Kobayashi. So let's get into the weeds of the components that made up the Silver Wolf's game. Boxing foundation. Masato's crisp, clean punches were a cornerstone of his style, and he wouldn't have looked out of place under professional boxing rules. His positional awareness was ahead of its time for kickboxing. He always knew where he was in relation to his opponent and the ring, and he understood how to create angles to attack from both sides. When moving away from the power side, circling to his right against an orthodox opponent, Masato often used the low kick to chop at the leg and keep the opponent anchored while staying out of range of the rear hand. This wasn't just about defence, it was about ring control. Movement forces opponents to reset before they can respond, especially at distance. Up close and in the pocket, counters are still a threat when moving around an opponent, but with proper angle and control, even those can be neutralised. Here Masato throws a slappy right hook into the guard while stepping his right foot outside, subtly shifting toward the opponent's close side. With the hook occupying the left hand, he sneaks a right body shot under the elbow. It's subtle, smart positioning, and he's turning the opponent just enough while staying safe from a left hook counter. When moving toward the power side, Masato often used a pivot. This is basic boxing, but rarely applied well in kickboxing. He'd step in with a jab, load the right hand and shift his weight heavily into the lead foot. From there, he'd pivot on the ball of the foot, sliding around past the opponent's right hand. He could pivot with the right hand, or use the turning motion to follow up into a left hook or left uppercut. In either case, he was attacking whilst moving off the centre line, giving his opponent no clear return. If you can keep the opponent turning to face you, you really limit their offensive options. These are fundamental principles in Western boxing, but often overlooked in kickboxing in gyms that prioritise static combinations over positional depth. As we'll cover later, Masato's defensive nuances were excellent, but the first layer of defence is denying your opponent a clean shot in return, which is exactly what you risk when you retreat along the same line that you attack them from. The lead hand. Like any good boxer, the jab was Masato's primary tool. He used it to set the tone, probe for reactions and build into combinations. His lead hand was varied, straight shots, hooks, uppercuts, and he was fluid with the way he'd throw it, sometimes training 2 or 3 punches off in quick succession. The jab into right uppercut was a Masato trademark. The uppercut itself, especially from the rear hand of an orthodox fighter, is a high risk move. It opens you up on both flanks and many have been punished for leading with it. But Masato's version was clean, purposeful, and he'd land it with frequency. The uppercut is a particularly effective tool against Thai-style opponents who like to use the long guard as a defence against punches. When the opponent utilises the long guard, they can extend their lead or rear arm out to obstruct the path of straight punches and tuck the chin behind the shoulder. Tucking the chin behind the shoulder defends against punches coming around the side. This only leaves one real opening, and that's underneath the extended arm. Like any good kickboxer, Masato knew how to layer his attacks. As spoken about already, he knew that being varied with the lead hand would make it very difficult for the opponent to predict the correct defence. The low kick was the perfect addition to his long boxing game, and throwing the occasional lead cross or snappy 1-2 alongside the low kicks would draw out reactions from opponents to set up his left side attacks. Here we see Masato throw a testing, slappy left hook into a low kick combination. His Thai opponent Sagatdao goes to the long guard and lifts his lead leg to check the kick. Masato staggers his rhythm with a little shuffle to fake the first low kick and then chops the leg as the opponent brings his foot back down to the canvas. The timing was sublime. In the next setup, Masato now knows the Thai will opt for a long guard defence. Masato brings the right hip forward, which again draws the same reaction of the long guard from the Thai. The Thai doesn't know if it's going to be a right hand, a right low kick or a left hook, but in his mind he has all bases covered and now he's thinking about his own counter. The problem this time is Masato slips inside of the long guard and slots a left uppercut through the middle. Masato lands his work and then is quick to spring back out the distance and avoid the counter right hand. This is high level stuff that in real time can go unnoticed. Body work. Hitting the body was a staple in Masato's game. In boxing, the phrase putting money in the bank refers to landing consistent body shots throughout a fight. The idea is that, like saving money over time, those shots pay off later. Body shots wear an opponent down. They tax the lungs, they sap their legs, and they slow down movement and reflexes. Body shots have a delayed dividends. Unlike headshots, body punches often don't produce instant results, but in later rounds the opponent may tire, begin to drop their guard, or become less mobile, allowing for bigger opportunities. Body shots are a strategic investment. Just like saving, the earlier you start, the bigger the long-term gain. And Masato would start off early and about. Even when competing under the sprint-like format of K-1 kickboxing, the 3x3 minute rounds, he believed in the long game and fought with the process. Breaking down the body was a sound investment, especially when opponents were forcing the issue and creating exchanges in the early going. It wasn't like boxing where you may have 6, 10, 11 or 12 rounds to capitalise. Masato would hit the body from the off, and he consistently attacked the legs and the body to capitalise on that investment in the later stages of the fight. Like all Japanese fighters, Masato was a fan of the attritional warfare. Combination punching. Masato was one of the finest combination punchers in K-1 Max history. As discussed earlier, his hands were sharp and precise, but beyond individual strikes, Masato excelled at stringing punches together with intent and rhythm. His jab cross was a reliable tool to close the distance, allowing him to enter the pocket where he could then unleash uppercuts and body shots with precision. Once inside, Masato's creativity shone. He frequently doubled up punches on the same side, right body shot to right uppercut or vice versa, or left hook to left body shot. This same side sequencing broke rhythm and caught opponents off guard, creating openings where none seemed to exist, and he would keep opponents under the pump. By attacking the same side in quick succession, he kept them under pressure. Masato was masterful at varying levels with combinations, head to body then back to head, and keeping his opponents guessing, disrupting their defensive timing. Masato would throw with fluidity and adaptability, making split-second reads to select the best punch available. His combinations weren't reckless or randomised, he threw with purposeful intent, which is what made him such a problem in close quarters, but we can often see him change his punches and kicks on the fly. Masato was very good at adapting in the moment. Fight IQ. Masato was a master strategist. As we've just spoken about, he could adapt mid-fight and mid-flow and adjust what he was doing in the moment. Whether pressuring an aggressive opponent or patiently countering, his situational awareness and pacing allowed him to dictate the rhythm of a fight. He knew when to engage, when to recover, and how to break an opponent down systematically. Low kicks are a key piece of the jigsaw for any kickboxer, but Masato used them tactically to break an opponent down from distance. If he was struggling to land his jab effectively and couldn't get close enough to land his boxing combinations, he would work from the outside and methodically break the opponent down by chopping at the lead leg or even mixing in his body kick, particularly on the left side. The low kick wasn't just a way for Masato to attack from range, but a vital weapon to break down heavy-handed opponents who were looking to trade punches. If his opponent was a strong boxer with their weight heavy on the front foot, he would exploit this. Masato would try to attack their vulnerabilities. For example, when a fighter is throwing a right hand, this is a great time to off-balance them with an inside low kick. In Masato's matches with knockout artist Mike Zambidis, we saw a great example of Masato switching up his tactics. He would use left kicks, low kicks and step-up knees to beat the power punchers inside boxing. The left knee targets the liver and can be a great way to swing the momentum of a fight in an instant. Defense. Masato had an excellent understanding of defense and he was often very physical in the ways he chose to implement it. Blocks and parries were his go-to defensive techniques. In boxing, a parry is a defensive technique used to deflect an incoming punch. It's a quick lateral movement of the hand, forearm or elbow designed to redirect the punch and prevent it from connecting with the fighter's head. Masato loved a rear hand parry to defend against a jab. Here we see Masato defend the jab with a rear hand parry before answering back with his own quick fire 1-2. Masato was excellent at building and then capitalising on these moments. Not only would he defend and then counter, but he went for another phase of attack on his stunned and defensive opponent. This is what separates the good fighters from the average. The greats have layers to their game and know when to capitalise on an opening. Masato's best punch was his left hook, and it was best served as a counter, catching opponents mid-combination. It's a great example of Masato working his attack off the back of his defence. Here we see Masato block a right hand on his left forearm. He lifts the arms high, almost hugging his own head, before quickly drawing the arm back to generate power in a snappy left hook. He beats Koshenko to the punch and catches him mid-combination. Arguably the most famous left hook of Masato's career was the one he landed against Albert Kraus to win his first K-1 Max title. You can see the process Masato went through. He landed it several times in the lead up to the knockout, and he varied up his lead hand to draw the reactions he wanted. This wasn't random, there was a process behind it. Knowing when to step in and when to step off is a skill within itself, and Masato had mastered it. Stepping in behind his guard, tucking the chin into the chest, elevating his shoulders not only made him a harder target to hit cleanly, but he would smother his opponent's work and bring himself too close for an opponent to punch effectively. This posture is also a great position to push from, which would not only serve as an exit, preventing the opponent from countering, but it also gave him space to mount his own offence, such as a chopping low kick on an off-balance opponent. If an opponent was forced to step back and break stance, then they couldn't lift their leg to defend. Masato would use this moment to smash the opponent with a kick to the thigh. The old idiom of the best defence is a good offence can ring true, but Masato showed that a good defence can be a good offence. Flaws. As much as Masato was savvy with his defence, he could sometimes be hit a little bit too much. Whether it's his Japanese mindset or just the stubborn mindset of that young Masato shining through, he could get dragged into wars. He was hurt multiple times throughout his career, and he had a few more hard fights than maybe he would have wanted. Masato's incredible fitness was an important piece of his game, as it allowed him to recover quickly. In his bout with Artur Koshenko during the 2008 K-1 Max finals, we saw Masato drop with a left hook whilst exchanging with the Ukrainian powerhouse. Masato took his time and he beat the count, rallying back from the brink of defeat to win a decision. Without his extreme level of conditioning and mental fortitude, he wouldn't have been able to bounce back in the way in which he did. His first fight with Bukaw was a great example of his vulnerabilities at distance. I think it's fair to say he got absolutely battered. He struggled with the teeps and roundhouse kicks at range, and any time he came in too close, he was getting tied up in the clinch and punished with knees. I think the telling thing about this fight is how it didn't define Masato. He adapted and overcame, and he showed significant improvements in the rematch. Masato worked more with Thai trainers and he evolved his game. He didn't just accept these shortcomings, he was constantly striving to improve and be a better version of himself. Masato's legacy is built on more than just titles, it's grounded on intelligence, versatility and willpower. He was a fighter who didn't just brawl, but broke down his opponents systematically with brains, technique and strategy. Whether dissecting an opponent with surgical precision or making subtle adjustments on the fly, Masato embodied the evolution of the modern kickboxer. The Silver Wolf wasn't just Japan's superstar, he was one of the sport's greatest tacticians. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this and would like to see more, head over to the Pro Striking Patreon for more in-depth breakdowns and tutorials. Pro Striking appreciates you more than a Masato Kobayashi left hook to the dome.